Steve Coates called the action. I was on the Flyers radio network last night, and Tim Saunders called the hit, and really he kind of called it as correctly, Pete. He said, he hits him, and he basically I'll let you hear it. Here's the two guys, Coatsy and Saunders, last night calling the action here on 97.3 ESPN as I was driving home last night, and this is how I heard it.
Brandon Manning gains the center ice red line and lifts it into the right wing corner. Oh, a big hit in the corner as Orlov is hammered by Belmar. He didn't intend to do that. Belmar is reaching down to make sure he's okay as the Caps jump in. Now Giroux has grabbed a dance partner, and he's throwing punches. But Belmar tried to ride Orlov into the wall and just couldn't do it, and Orlov went awkwardly head first.
Yeah, and then all hell broke here. It's unbelievable. Giroux has been throwing rights and lefts, and as has Brian White. Justin Williams trying to get in for the Caps to even everything up.
And that's Coachy right there with the analyst. And, of course, Giroux gets the 10-minute misconduct, as did White. But it really started with a hit that, as Tim Saunders said, he didn't intend to do that. He checked the player out almost immediately. And then after that, Coachy, it kind of went all downhill from there. And, I just want to get your perspective of calling it last night. Did you see it the way Saunders did, that, Belmar didn't really intend to do something wrong there to spark what ended up happening afterwards?
Well, let's first of all talk about the guy that does the hitting. He's not that type of hitter. His first thing he did, you ever notice that nobody went after him? Everybody that makes a hit like that, they go after the hitter. Nobody went after him because they knew. Orlov was down. He put himself in a position, first of all, to take a hit like that. You don't go up against the wall like that and expect not to get yourself injured. Your first purpose as a player is to protect yourself. He goes down. He's in a crouched position. So he's kind of going down to begin with. Now, Belmar is at least, I would expect, of a player to be able to make a cheap shot to hit Dmitry Orlov there. There's no way in the world. So that's why nobody went after Belmar. Everybody else was fighting, except Belmar was the guy that did the hitting. You ever seen anybody not get chased after by the opponent by hitting an opposing player like Orlov in that position? It was just a strange situation. And after that, it went downhill. It went really downhill. Obviously, you could see the frustration in the actions of Giroux, the actions of White, because they were swinging away there in the corner. But the whole thing, the whole night just disintegrated in a matter of a couple of minutes. The beginning of the game was absolutely spectacular. The man that developed this whole thing, the man that built it, provided for me and everybody else that works for the Philadelphia Flyers, created the Philadelphia Flyers. And the building was just electric. It was a fabulous beginning. The ceremony was outstanding. The first goal was outstanding. And then the game wore on. There was a couple of bad goals. And the team, I think, right now is just totally exhausted. And they're playing against a team that absolutely is a lot better than they are. So the combination developed into what happened in the third period. I'm embarrassed, I think, for the city of Philadelphia for what happened, because it's on every media outlet right now in the United States and Canada, probably around the world, because they threw all that stuff on the ice. But, when things go downhill, they don't stop, and that's exactly what happened last night. That whole event became a very sad thing in the third period.
Was that as angry as you've seen Lou Nolan before? Because that didn't necessarily translate on the TV broadcast because they'd gone to break. But people that were in the building, and you were in the building, Coatsy, he made the announcement warning them, and then they still threw more bracelets on the ice.
Well, it's a real tough situation. You bring in the bracelets because it created an atmosphere at the beginning of the hockey game that was spectacular. It was spectacular. And are you going to think that the Flyers are going to be down 4-1 or 5-1 or 6-1 in the third period, and things are going downhill with a fight and having to kill a 5-on-3 throughout the whole third period? Nobody would have ever dreamt that. It was a night to celebrate Mr. Snyder's success as the owner of the Philadelphia Flyers, to honor them. And, oh, boy, I'll tell you what, that was not the way I don't think anybody in the organization or anybody around would have thought that had ended like that, because it just went south so quickly. And it's interesting. You say that we went to break, or they went to commercial break. We did the same thing on the radio side. And the only reason we went to break, we didn't look at the red light. We were just looking at all the people shoveling the bracelets off the ice. So we were reacting to the ice crew coming out, because that's what happens. The light goes on, and then the ice crew comes out. They were prematurely coming out to take care of the watches being on the ice. You got Ovechkin and Simmons standing out there yelling at the crowd, please stop, this is ridiculous. So I don't think we've ever seen anything like that before. I don't remember ever being penalized, a home team being warned, but I've never seen them follow through with it.
Yeah, I think Florida was the first team that got penalized for it, right, for the Rats?
Well, with the Rats, yeah. Well, that was a whole different ball game down there. That was something that built, actually, the Florida franchise. I mean, they went to the Stanley Cup Finals that year. It became kind of
their rallying cry, yeah.
That was a rallying cry. This was a sadness situation. I don't even know. I don't even know how to explain it to you. We're watching it, and we're watching the team, just kind of not. I don't even know how to describe it.
Right, bizarre.
They just lost it.
Were you able to hear during the moment of silence for Mr. Snyder? Was there a couple Flyers fans that yelled "Penguins suck" or "Pens suck" or something like that?
Yeah, somebody said that, and what they thought that it was a response because the Penguins yelled something in Pittsburgh when they had the moment of silence for Mr. Snyder. So they thought that was just a retaliation to that. But as well as I do, you can have 25,000 people in there. You can have 20,000, 19,000. One guy yells, you're going to be able to hear it. And so it was sad to hear that, but you've got people tailgating for 4 or 5 hours prior to the game. You're going to have to expect something like that, I guess.
Yeah, Coach. Ultimately, I know the organization put out a very well-written. What was it, Pete?
Yeah, Flyers fans are the best in sports. However, last night a number of individuals behaved in an unacceptable manner. Fans have the right to voice their displeasure vocally or by not watching or attending games, but when displeasure is expressed in a way that embarrasses or endangers others, it cannot be condoned or tolerated. As an organization, and on behalf of the overwhelming majority of Flyers fans who express their passion in a positive manner, we wish to express our sincere regret. That's the official team statement released today about the incident.
Yeah, and that's well said. I mean, it takes a very small group of individuals to ruin it for everybody else. I mean, there's 20,000 people in that building last night. And the other thing, too, is the referee comes over, and I'll ask you guys this. The referee comes over and says to Lou Nolan, tell everybody that if they keep throwing the watches, then there's going to be a penalty. Well, what about all the Washington fans? What do they got to lose? They're going to throw the watches out there.
Right. Well, look, you look at the situation, and we know that was a unfortunate instance, and we've talked a lot about it. But ultimately, the play on the ice was matching what happened in the stands. It just was not a very good effort. And you mentioned you think this team is just shot, exhausted?
Yep. Yeah, I didn't say that last night on the air, but, yeah, I do. I just see, this team started off very well. But you know what? When you're playing against a team like the Washington Capitals, they're a very good hockey club. They're big, they're fast, and sooner or later they're going to wear this team down. The Flyers aren't as big as they are. So you're going to get worn down. Was it going to happen in Game 3, Game 4, Game 5? I don't know. But my opinion was last night where it just seemed like the Flyers were skating in sand. They had a couple of, I would like to think, inopportune goals that were scored on Mason. I didn't like the one on that Ovechkin scored, jumping over the boards and taking a wrist shot. Then the one that came off the back of the glass was probably the one that really triggered the whole problem in the third period. Hindsight, if Mason doesn't play it, it becomes an innocent play, but he's got the puck going, firing across, coming off the glass. He's got to do something to try to be in control. He misses it and it ends up on Kuznetsov's stick. I think what could go wrong went wrong. But I think that the team, just when you think about the way things have happened in the last 2-3 months, getting there, getting to the playoffs, I'm not disappointed in them at all. I think that they've run into a juggernaut of a hockey club. They won the President's Trophy. I can't fault them for what's happening out there. They're giving their all. They are giving their all. And, sometimes you just get to a point where one leg's not going very fast in front of the other one. And they're playing against a team that is relaxed, have a great amount of talent, and that's what's happened. And that came to a climax last night in the third period.
And are living up to their expectations for once. The Capitals are in the playoffs. Steve Coates, our guest here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN FM. So Mike Gill and I were talking, Coatesy, about what cards are left in the deck for Dave Haxtell really to play. That was my argument of why he might make a goalie change, is that he really doesn't have a lot of options tinker-wise. Where would you see options of the things that Haxtell could do for the lineup in Game 4 that might shake things up?
Well, I would think that Michael Neuwirth would be the number one element. The only other elements you have is that you can change your lines around. The power play has been probably the number one problem in this series. If they had been somewhat successful, then you would have had a little bit of a difference in any one of the games in the rhythm of the game. In the first game, you got 3 power plays in the first period, you don't score, the rhythm's out. The second, same thing. Third, same thing, where the Washington Capitals are just dominating on the power play. And the penalty kill's been pretty good for the Flyers. So what you've seen is that they're just so powerful that it's the cream's come to the top, and it's reached out and grabbed onto the Flyers, and they have nowhere to go. So the only thing you do is change your lineup a little bit, as far as change your lines, maybe put some different people on the number 1 power play, number 2 power play, and put Michael Neuwirth there. Outside of that, I don't think a change in personnel is going to change anything to win this hockey game tomorrow night.
I'm interested, Coachy, on a couple things. One, on the Mason Neuwirth thing, I'm interested to see what would have been different had Neuwirth never been hurt. How they would have gone down the stretch, how that would have changed a bunch of things, because Mason was playing so well and he was so hot. Would they have pulled him? Would they have gone back to Neuwirth? Would Neuwirth have gotten the job? I know when we had talked to you leading up to the playoffs, some weeks Neuwirth was the guy. Then Mason took back over. Then Neuwirth got hurt. Mason never came out. I just wonder how things would have been different. Maybe not in this series, but would it have been a different situation had Neuwirth never been hurt?
Well, that'd be nice to think about, but he was. And so you have to play the cards that are, dealt to you. And when you take a look at the way Mason played to get us here, we weren't questioning whatsoever about him, because he was outstanding. He was outstanding in Game 1. Scary outstanding. Then he had that big save in Game 2, and I went, oh, my goodness, I think he just tore both of his groins. And then he let that long shot in, and the whole complexion changed. So I was questioned a couple of times about, well, you're going to play Neuwirth in Game 3. And I said, no, you can't, because Mason got you here. Everything's been going well. Neuwirth hasn't played. So you can't make that move right now, because you've got to give the net to the guy that got you here and has continued to play well. Now, I don't think there's any question that Neuwirth's going to go tomorrow night. I'd be shocked if he wasn't, because you have to make that change. You've had a bad game, a lot of goals scored against, and so the rhythm of what's going to happen as far as the goaltending has to go back to Neuwirth. But before that, I don't think there was any question. Like you said, I thought during the year Neuwirth was the better goaltender until he got hurt. But we can't control that. He could have been the number 1 guy the rest of the year. This whole situation could have been a lot better. We could have had Sean Couturier. I would have loved to have Michael Del Zotto, but we didn't. So you have to play the cards that are dealt you.
Yep, Michael Del Zotto. Steve Coates with us here on 97.3. Coates, Mike Gill and I were debating earlier in the show about the Flyers captain. Mike likes to bring up, and of course, Claude Giroux has kind of disappeared in this series. So he thinks that Wayne Simmons would be a better captain. I said when you came on, maybe you could explain to us what qualities Giroux brings as a captain. What don't we, average fan, see that Giroux brings to that hockey team?
Well, first of all, I don't think that either one of them would be a bad captain. I'm not going to disagree with having Simmons as a captain, but I don't think that Claude Giroux should not be the captain. I think Claude Giroux is an excellent captain. In fact, I think he's really grown into the position. He might have been a little bit premature in getting that C a few years ago, but I don't think that that's true now. What I'm seeing in the way he's playing right now is I think he's hurt. If you watch him skate, he's not skating the way that Claude Giroux can skate. I think he's playing probably around 80%. And I don't know what's wrong with him. I have no clue. That's only my opinion. But the way he's skating right now, I think he's hurt, and that's causing the problem as far as the way he's playing.
Yeah, no, and one of my questions, Coachy, for the Flyers fans out there is the captain really sets the identity of your team. And my question for a guy like Pete, who's a much bigger Flyer hockey guy than I would be, is what is the identity of the Flyers? And sometimes if you can't give me that answer, doesn't that kind of say, well, then what is the identity of the captain if you can't give me the identity of the team? You may say, I know what the identity of the team is better than one of us do.
Well, I think that Claude Giroux is a leader both on and off the ice. I think Wayne Simmons is a leader on and off the ice. I don't know where you're going with that. I think that both of those guys have the ability. I mean, Claude Giroux is the longest tenured player here with the Philadelphia Flyers. He's the leading scorer every year for the Philadelphia Flyers. He handles himself both on and off the ice. So I don't know where you're going with that.
Well, I guess I've asked the question before: is Claude Giroux the best player on the team that wins the Stanley Cup? When it's all said and done, is he the best player on a team that ends up winning a Stanley Cup?
The best player for what?
A team that if Washington wins, I think people would say Ovechkin was the best player. That's why they won. Crosby wins.
Or Holtby.
Right. Well, Crosby wins. He's the best player on the team that won the Stanley Cup. Is Claude Giroux the best player on a team that wins the Stanley Cup? In other words, is he the star of the stars on a team, or does he need someone to outshine him even though he's the captain? The captain doesn't always have to be the best player. But is he the best player on a team that will win a Stanley Cup?
I don't think that has anything to do with anything.
Maybe not. Well, maybe
I don't think that's got anything to do with anything.
I'm just trying to.
It doesn't matter if the guy, like Claude Giroux right now, has been the leading scorer of this hockey club for I don't know how many years. What's it matter if he's the best player? Like. If the team wins the Stanley Cup, like the team got into the playoffs without having him being the star.
Yes.
The team got into the playoffs. So the captainship is probably the most important position of all the sports of being a captain. There's no two ways about that.
Agreed.
Being a captain of a hockey club is the most responsible position of any pro sport. So if a guy like Claude Giroux comes to the building and he's playing and he's doing the best possible job, he's doing what he's supposed to do to be able to get the best out of his players.
Yeah.
What's it matter if he's the best player?
I guess the retort would be this team has not had a lot of playoff success with him as the captain. The teams that are winning the cups, you can roll off their guys.
Jonathan Toews.
Right, off the
like
top
that.
of your head that, okay, the best player on the team was the big reason why that team won the Stanley Cup. Like, all right, 2 years ago, they played the Rangers. It's a 7-game series. When you get to Game 7, you're pretty equal in talent. If you say that Claude Giroux is the best player on the ice, I feel like I had the advantage, and the Flyers come up short in that series.
I think you just hit something that is very important in your argument. You just said that you're equal talent. There's no way in the world the Flyers are equal talent that year against the New York Rangers when they got beaten 7. You're talking about a number 1 team and a number 8 team here right now. You're talking about a team that nobody ever thought they would win the Stanley or even get to the Stanley Cup playoffs because they lack the talent.
Oh, I'm not suggesting they should have won this series, by the way.
Instead of looking at it half empty, you got to look at it half full.
Yeah.
How did they get there? What did they do to be successful for a team that nobody ever dreamt it would make the playoffs?
Well, I agree this year that this was a clear underdog situation. And look.
No, go back the years. Go back the years, Mike. Take a look at all the years that we've missed the playoffs. The one year that we did make the Stanley Cup Finals, we made it on the last day of the year. with Mike Richards, Jeff Carter. Pretty good hockey club. Very good hockey club. Rode the goaltending, got to the Stanley Cup Finals, did things as a group that were spectacular, of which Giroux was part of that. So I don't understand why we're arguing about something that really has nothing to do with captaincy or we're talking about the talent of the hockey club to get there. Who cares? I mean, I could go through many a hockey team in the history of the Stanley Cup and the National Hockey League that had many a captain who wasn't the star of the team. They were just the guy that was there that was going to lead the team and do what he had to do night after night to provide the leadership to make everybody else better.
Well, Coatsy, do they have enough talent to extend it past tomorrow night, or what do you think is going to happen tomorrow night?
No, you'd be lying if you think that. Why all of a sudden the talent's going to get better? That you're going to have to do it on emotion. You're going to have to do everything right. You're going to have your goaltender stand on his head. You're going to have everything right. You're playing against the President's Trophy winners. They got so many weapons. They're bigger. They're faster. And we're missing too many people. We've got two elements out. That's not an excuse. I think we're a little fatigued. But you're still, when it all goes, when you throw all the balls in the air, we needed every cylinder of the engine to be running. And that didn't happen last night. You saw it. We all witnessed it. Is that the team that won the National Hockey League series this year, the season series, won last night's game because of the abilities that they have. And it just comes to a point where you reach a point of no return, and it happened last night. Can it go back? Maybe the Washington Capitals don't want to win it here. Maybe they want to just relax a little bit and then go back to Washington and do it in front of their own crowd. That's happened before. But in the long run, this team is really up against a real tough situation. It's not like years ago when they came back and beat Boston after being down 3. It's not even close.
Steve Coates will call the game tomorrow night with Tim Saunders here on 97.3 ESPN. The coverage starts at 7 o'clock as the Flyers try to extend the series against the Capitals. And, of course, all the Flyers coverage on our website, 97.3ESPN.com. Good stuff, Coatesy. We'll talk to you soon, pal.
Michael, Peter, thanks, my man.